Hey everyone, Steven here, and welcome to episode number 13 of You Are Admirable. In this episode, I play guest to Pat Iwanski at his badass grain elevator. Along with being EJ Porth's husband, EJ from episode number 7, and Mari Jones's cousin-in-law, Mari from episode number 11, Pat is a collector of all kinds of cool things. He works in reclaimed wood, and he's just an all-around good, caring, passionate guy. I really enjoyed getting to know Pat, and I enjoyed everything about this interview, including the short interruption that we had right at the beginning. Let's jump into it. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
Thanks for doing this.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, this is a really exciting interview because of the way that the nature of like the nomination at the end. EJ couldn't have nominated you, and then going to Mari gets to nominate you. I
got to be honest with you, it was pretty surprising. Although we've jokingly, since basically I've been engaged to EJ, Mari's known about the impending cousinhood, if you will, and she's embraced it full bodily, and it's been pretty funny, and she's a great gal.
Yeah.
So oddly, we've got the farmer showing up here right now.
Oh, perfect.
That is probably going to want to know why we unplugged his grain. So I might go talk to him. Matt, how are you?
Oh, what's going on here?
I'm literally doing an interview. I unplugged your grain long enough to do the interview. I hope I'm not going to ruin your day.
I think we just leave it off, Matt.
Okay, well I must have like known that you wanted me to do that, Matt. I was like, oh shit, here he comes, and I'm probably going to get yelled at for turning off the grain dryer. Just ruined his whole crop, but no, he's a super good dude. Sorry to get back on track here. Total sidebar.
No, we were basically just talking about how I see you and EJ as like this power couple of admiration now.
Oh, I think EJ has me beat. I'm probably just riding on her coattails a little bit as far as anything I'm doing for the community or otherwise. I mean, I'm always happy to help, but she's like more than always willing to help. She's she can't get her hand up quick enough to volunteer to help.
Oh yeah, so. Yeah, she's incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, Mari definitely mentioned what she admires about you is that you stay true to yourself, and you have this passion for a lot of different hobbies and collections and things of that nature. And you seem to put a lot of love and care into everything and everyone that's a part of your life. And I want to start it out with the question of what all are your hobbies and collections?
It's a pretty wide array. I went to Montana State for history, and left with a semester to go. Might as well get that out of the way. Walked. Still a point of contention with my father is the fact that I have a semester left of college and that I have not completed it. But moving back onto the history side of it, I have always been fascinated by old junk, long before there were ever all these TV shows about it. I was the weird kid that would bring home all this rusty shit that my parents would be like, oh my God, like as quick as I would bring things home, they would throw them away. And I've just always been fascinated by junkyards. Growing up in Michigan, the woods, there's all these ditches full of, old where people used to have, farm junk piles and so on. And, I honestly think the first thing I ever took home, and I still have it, is like an implement seat, what people would call a tractor seat, that I literally was walking. We briefly lived in Virginia, and I almost tripped over it. And there was a piece of metal sticking out of the dirt, and I pulled it up, and that was sort of the beginning of the end of things that I brought home. But I really enjoy, to be honest with you, getting my hands on things. I mean, it's like an auction or a junkyard or an antique store is like a museum, but you can touch everything as long as you don't break it. I mean, and so you get to figure things out and learn about things. And I've always been more of a hands-on learner than a studious type. To go back to what I do collect, I'm sidebarring on you quite harsh here. My father got me and my brother into railroads at a young age, model railroading as well, which I currently don't have a model railroad set up, although that's in the 5-year plan. I mean, I've got some different opportunities and spaces to do it. Believe it or not, you'd think it'd be here, but I've got a nice space at our shop at the house. Railroading, I've always enjoyed Native American artifacts, although I don't particularly own many of them. The most things I have are some points and some arrowheads. I've always really enjoyed gas and oil, long before the American pickers got the whole world into gas and oil. I've always really, even from the time well before I could ever drink, had a substantial beer sign collection that has been built up and thinned probably 3 or 4 times now. Over the course of my life, I've accumulated a ton of them and then sold off. There's only so much wall space, even when you have a grain elevator, and along the lines of what you might see on the TV show, I've sold a lot of them to people that really enjoy them, and that's sort of a fun thing too, is to find the right home for objects or seeing the value in them and saving them. But then again, what else I collect over the course of sort of after college, I've gone down this crazy pickup truck road of things I collect. Growing up in Michigan, all these great classic trucks were always rusted out to the door handles. The frames were cracked on them and had holes in them, and they were just unrestorable. And then you come out here and they're everywhere, and they're quite reasonable, and they're fixable. And so that's been a lot of what I collect. But I just collect things that I find interesting for one reason or another. I might buy something just because it's a good value, even if I don't particularly think I need it, because I don't need any of this really. And my wife will tell you I don't need any of this as well. If I find value in it, if I know I can turn $1 on it, if I could sit on something for a year or something, or just wait for the right deal to come along, or I'll buy something if I know it's a great price and I know that along the way I could trade it at a swap meet or something to a collector that might be a Chevy guy. I pick up a Chevy something or other and know that it's going to be great, and I'm more of a Ford guy. Not that I'm that guy that is playing that Ford Chevy game. I think make it in America, and that's just fine.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I've just got a wide range, and I enjoy the hunt. I really like getting out and finding the items and meeting the people that owned them and hearing the history on things, and literally just sort of being hands-on museum experience, if you will.
Nice. So one of the things that Mari wanted to know was, where do you get your passion for the things that you're interested in? And you mentioned this first seat that you found. Is there something a little bit more than that has given you this passion really for the things that you like?
I think a lot of it just stems from the history of this country. To be honest with you, just the historical background of all these great things that were created in booming times of the country, and the craft that went into building this structure. These trucks, they don't make them like this anymore. Even this scale that's behind me is cast iron and 100% accurate. I mean, it was how people made a living, being accurate and paying accordingly, and it's just cast iron. I mean, we don't make things like that anymore. Everything's made out of plastic, or it's computerized. Not that I have an issue with that, but I just, these simple objects, not that a V8 engine is a simple object, but it's very different than popping the hood on a 2017 vehicle today. I just really enjoy sort of like, it's what's the word on that? I don't want to say time machine, but it's somewhat nostalgic that you can look at all this great stuff and, you know, hold it in your hands.
Yeah.
So, and to, you know, some issue, I mean, sometimes I kind of get overwhelmed and we have to take a trailer load or two to the auction, and then I start over again once I get some money for it. But I just really think it stems from no real particular thing. I mean, my parents, we had some antiques in the house. My grandmother's basement and attic were like exactly like this. They were like she could have had an antique store off just what she had in her basement.
Wow.
And it used to just be the best thing ever was to go in the basement or the attic and just look at stuff. And I just think from an early age, I was just really into it. And like I said earlier, when I was in the Boy Scouts, we would camp in all these properties around the state. And there's some abandoned farm that had become a wooded property again. And in the middle of it, there'd be a junk heap. And there'd be all these headlights and hubcaps and stuff. And I just fell in love with it. I mean, my parents never encouraged that. They never discouraged it to a large degree either. I mean, they obviously, I was telling you how as quick as I would bring it home, they'd throw it away. But they let me keep some things. You know, I had a bedroom that was more like a museum as a kid than most, 15-year-old kids would have. But like I said, thank God all these guys on television made me cool now.
Yeah, you're cool without it. You don't need that. With everything that you do, with everything you collect, with your job too. Your job is really fascinating to me, reading about that, doing reclaimed wood. You were the president of the Eagles Club for a while.
2 years, yes.
2 years, okay. With everything that you've done or everything that you do, what's your favorite?
I would say, my job with reclaimed wood along with this hobby sort of overlap. I mean, I get the opportunity to find all this amazing material all over the United States and Canada, meet the people that had it, and work with the companies to salvage it versus ruin it, and then we get to repurpose it and make something great out of it again. And that's how I feel about a lot of my hobby rolls over into that too. I like to take old things and give them a new life. So I would think in general, whether it's rusty or wooden, my favorite aspect of sort of being Pat Iwanski is taking old stuff and finding a new purpose for it, or finding the right person for it, or having it on hand so that an architect can draw something amazing out of it, or an interior decorator can incorporate it into a room. That's a lot of fun. So that's, again, the hunt and the history of it is the best part. And whenever possible, when I find these structures, everyone wants to know, where did these beams from my house come from? And if I can tell them the story, half these buildings had some role in World War II. If they were a manufacturing facility, they made this, they made that, and people love it, and rightfully so. And then if we're lucky enough, there's a random black and white we can find at a historical society or something, and they've got this great piece of this history that lives on, and it's been repurposed, and I think it's, really awesome. It's one of the best parts about what I do for work, and one of my favorite things to do is, again, for hobbies, is find old things and bring new life to them. So.
Yeah, there's certain things I read in that article that you have troubles getting rid of.
Yeah, I mean, and I do and I don't. I mean, it's not Pat's Wood Museum. The stuff has a shelf life. It sits outside in the Montana weather, which is one of the best places you could ever store lumber, other than you can't leave it out there for 15 years. But there's just some ones that were really special, or they're really unique, and you just hate to see them go. But then when you see them repurposed and getting a new life, it's really great, and I sort of said that because the guy with the article was kind of looking for a cheeky comment, if you will. So, but at the end of the day, it's all for sale. I can promise you that. So.
Yeah. Did you get rid of the Lairkind's brewery?
I still have some of them around. We recently turned some of them into custom bar top.
Nice.
In a bar, which is a great story. You've got a local brewery, took some of the material and were able to turn it into, a bar in Bozeman, or a private bar in somebody's house, but nonetheless, pretty great.
With everything that you've accomplished, do you have a favorite accomplishment, or an accomplishment that you're most proud of?
I would probably say my most recent accomplishment would be convincing my wife to marry me. To be honest with you, I don't think I'm that lovable. I'm definitely not the easiest guy to get along with. And
Really?
No, I'm actually kind of a jerk. I mean, I'm not the worst person ever, but I'm not the nicest person ever. I kind of keep to myself and have just a small handful of friends and really don't mind a lot of alone time. I mean, I'm not antisocial by any means. I just don't usually, I'm not as outgoing as my wife. And when it comes to, being around other people, she's always great at it, and I just sort of melt in the corners sometimes. But marrying her, being perfectly honest and not looking for brownie points, EJ. Super amazing lady. She had the option to not get married or marry anyone she wanted in this world. And, she's a strong feminist woman, and that was not necessarily in her game plan originally. And obviously people evolve and things happen, and I'm honored that I was able to convince her that I was the right person to alter her game plan. So I hope that's it's not as deep as like I once walked the whole Appalachian Trail, which I didn't do. But
what are you talking about? This is way deeper. That's a great answer, and it dovetails into another question that I always ask, which is, what do you like least about yourself? What's the trait or characteristic you like least about yourself? And then what's the characteristic or trait that you like most about yourself?
I would say that I'm impatient. I'm impatient, and that can be difficult for people that know me or love me, work with me, whatever the case may be. Yeah. And I wouldn't say I'm like, I'm not like some psycho, but at the same time, I can get steamed about things, and then I just stay steamed, and that's definitely not healthy. I try to work on it, and I think my wife has helped me out with that quite a bit over the course of our relationship. And I would have to say, if there's something I like about myself, I would say I try to give everyone a fair chance. It's life's hard, whether you're college educated, uneducated, poor, rich, have this amazing background, or don't, as far as education or life experiences. But I try to give everyone a fair shake to learn about them. I feel like I've got a really interesting melting pot of guys that I work with. I take care of the hiring on that side of it. Along the lines of my fraternal organization, the Fraternal Order of Eagles, that's a huge melting pot of different people. Some people know how to do this, know how to do that. Some people don't know how to do this, do that. And it seems odd that I'm going to say this with my last answer of saying I'm impatient, but I'm willing to give everyone a try. I might get impatient with you once I realize you can't do something, but I think I try to, be fair to everyone I can be. So that's that's what I think I am best at.
Nice.
My best trait.
With the impatience, you said you're working on it, and EJ's helping you. Are there specific things that you're doing?
I just, to be honest with you, I just need to know when to shut up. And I just sometimes don't. And that's been a huge, or things that are not a big deal. She's more than told me are not a big deal, and just relax. And she's right. Life's too short to have an ulcer, or stroke, or something. Or, be worked up all day after something goes wrong, or whatever the case may be. So, definitely kudos to her for helping me along the way. So, but I'm not being like clinically tested or anything like that at the moment. Although maybe in part 2 you can check up on me and see where we're at.
Nice, fair enough. Who other than your parents has been the biggest influence on your life?
I would honestly have to say it was a group of people, if I can do that.
Yeah.
I was in the Boy Scouts from the time I was a Tiger Cub all the way till I became an Eagle Scout. And to be honest with you, say what you will about some of the current practices and rulings about homosexuality and whatever the case may be in the Boy Scouts, I don't agree with that one bit, and I'm not making a statement on that behalf, but the Boy Scouts gave me some of the most interesting opportunities of my life, hands down. My father, suit and tie businessman, not very handy, and not that he's incapable, but he'll self-admittedly say he's not handy if you watch his dad, sorry. But, by the time I was 14, 15 years old, he had me fixing things in the house. And my point is this amazing melting pot of scout leaders that were fathers. They were contractors. They were stonemason, brick mason, professional painters. One guy strictly restored wooden boats. Some of the dads, one of them worked at a radio station. Just so this amazing experience of all these different sort of adult role model figures to sort of help myself as well as all these other kids learn about life. I mean, I always had interest in building, but I never really got really into it until I was around these guys that were professional contractors. They went and built houses every day. A guy restored wooden boats every day, you know what I mean? Or a guy like professional painter even. I mean, he was like doing awesome stuff, not just like, you and I painting a bedroom, what I mean? And so, and then along the lines of we went on all these amazing trips. Once a month our motto or our slogan was that we were the year-round campers. So every month of the year we'd go on a camping trip. Even in the middle of winter in Michigan, we'd go. We'd either go outdoors or, we'd even have like a Chicago trip where we'd go to Chicago and stay in a church gymnasium and go to the Sears Tower and just, all this great stuff. And then along the lines with that, you've got all these tasks to complete because you're supposed to be advancing and you're learning life skills. Some of them are really practical, like first aid and life saving, and sailing is a little less important in life, but a lot of fun to learn. And so we got to do all this great stuff. We used to go to the Boundary Waters in Minnesota every 2 years and completely go off the grid and live backcountry with whatever we had on our backs in a canoe for 10 days. And that was a lot of great experiences in leadership, in trust, in just developing friendships, learning how to be decent to people, learning how to solve problems. So I would say this group of dads as a whole in the Boy Scouts were probably the most influential on me as far as sort of shaping what I became, as far as just interesting opportunities. I mean, just unbelievable opportunities that, and I don't know that it would be true with every Boy Scout troop because I know some of them aren't as successful and they don't have the right people helping out, not to downplay any of that either, but I was just really lucky that I was able to be part of something with this amazing group of guys. And again, I wouldn't have had all those experiences. Again, my father, businessman type, but interesting enough, my father was one of the adult leaders. So the kids that were, their dad was a contractor, got to be around somebody that was, professional. And my father was the orienteering merit badge, which is using a compass. And he's a Vietnam vet, was a platoon leader in Vietnam. And as soon as he became that, half these kids couldn't get the merit badge because he made the compass courses so hard, because he's used to like calling in fire missions and sector Z12 hill 9, and these kids that was go to the power pole, and there's a flag there, that was like the one that I got to do. I never had to do my dad's course, so it was kind of a funny side note. But yeah, a great experience. So I mean, I wouldn't change anything in the world on having got to have that experience as part of the Scouts. So.
When talking to EJ, she mentioned that you're really somebody who learns by doing. Do you think that's where that came from?
I actually just think in general, it's always been that way. I had a degree of difficulty in certain subjects in school. I could just never really understand algebra and things like that. And oddly enough, you can use a transit to take a measurement off a floor to the top plate of a roof and come up with, the roof height that we need to build a truss to, and that's algebra. And I can, in practical applications, it's great, but I just never have been able to, not that I can't learn with books or in a classroom. And if it's in a classroom, I prefer that's more of an open dialogue versus just a textbook education. But that's been my whole life. It's worked out way better for me. Honestly, one of the greatest things to ever come along is YouTube. I mean, it sounds terrible. I've added outlets and lights and plumbing and you name it. I mean, I'm fairly good with wood, but I sometimes have no business cutting into, plumbing in our house and moving it 6 inches, but it's all come out thanks to YouTube. So it's been great. Just sit down and watch a quick video, go buy the stuff, and do it. So no, I've definitely, and I've learned by doing too. Just trial and error. See what's going to happen. Let's see how this goes. Sometimes it goes, you're like, wow, that worked out great, or you're like, wow, that's broken. I need to go get another one. And but that's for the most part, that's always been me. Is I've always been good with just getting my hands into it right away and figuring it out.
What's something about you that most people don't know?
Well, I already shared that I haven't completed college. I don't usually brag about that, but I'm not ashamed of it either.
EJ mentioned that as well as kind of a...
Yeah, it's just out there. I mean, hasn't affected my career or anything. Actually, the opportunity was ripe for the taking, and that's kind of why I didn't finish. I mean, I jumped right into a great position, and I've never looked back.
Nice.
But I guess I don't know. Just kind of jokingly, I was a child actor to some degree. I used to take acting lessons at the Arts Council in our hometown in Holland, Michigan, and I was chosen to play the role of Wally Webb in not the musical, just the play Our Town for Hope College in Holland, Michigan for their summer repertory theater. And I did 15 performances as Wally Webb, and anyone that doesn't know, Wally Webb's appendix burst while he's on a scout camping trip and he dies. So they write him out of the play. It's not dramatic. I didn't have to die on stage or anything. They just sort of, you're sitting in a chair and they just sort of turn off the light. And then they phased me out. But that was an interesting experience. I think it's probably helped me be able to be comfortable, even in something like this, or just talking to people in general, or still not really all that great in front of a couple hundred people at a podium, but it's bearable.
Yeah.
Just a neat experience, and I don't know that I ever thought I was going to be an actor. I think I don't know. I really don't even know how we got signed up for acting classes, but we did, and then I did it for at least 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. I took classes, and that's what I got for you. That's not a lot of people know that.
Dude, that's sweet. Are you kidding? Does EJ know that?
I think she probably knows that, but I don't know if she'll have to watch this.
Would you be interested in getting back into theater?
I don't know. I don't know if I would. You know, it's maybe sort of a retirement option. You know, I'm just a pretty busy guy. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just have a tendency to overcommit myself.
Okay.
You know, but it's definitely, it's an idea. You know, but yeah, it was a lot of fun when I did it. So.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting choice of, I mean, I was sort of into a little bit of everything, or give everything a try.
Yeah.
You know, so Hollywood never called. So Broadway didn't either. So.
What do you see in your future then?
You know, I'm really happy in my current position. Got a great crew of guys that work for me. I work for 2 incredibly great guys that are, they really are pretty hands-off on my side of the business, and I mean that in a positive way, and I think they want it to be that way. You know, I usually only have to check in with them when we've got an issue. So I manage the company, and that's what they pay me to do, so that makes a lot of sense, so that works out great. Right now, I'm going to keep selling used lumber, reclaimed wood, for all those folks out there that don't know, I'm joking around a little bit. You know, right now I think EJ and I are going to stay in Bozeman and keep things going. EJ's career is going incredibly well. As far as the future, no children in our immediate future, or you know, that's not off the table, but it's not currently in the plan. You know, I'm gonna keep buying junk. I think EJ and I'll travel a lot more now that we're married. We had our wedding at our house, and we put a major addition on the house, re-sided it, gutted the whole inside of it, which was a very trying relationship exercise. And the majority of it's done now, and it's gonna kind of create a new chapter for us. I love to fish. I have a fishing boat. I actually put it in the water for the first time immediately after our wedding, not the day of, but like a week or so after, for the first time in 2 years. Like I said, just put it away as a result of responsibilities to remodel in the house. So I love to fish. EJ likes to ride in the boat and read books. So another way for us to get out and travel and be outdoors. You know, and I think I'll continue to try and participate in some degree with the Fraternal Order of Eagles. I'm currently not an officer at the local Bozeman area, but I am a state officer for the state of Montana.
Nice.
So I'm required to attend 6 meetings a year. I'm a trustee with them. We work with different charitable groups that we issue grants for, and then a big responsibility over the course of the year is to work on, we have a scholarship fund, and it's a very trying job actually. I have to review all the applications and issue the scholarships to 4 recipients each year, and it's always you know, a tough decision because a lot of these kids are really great kids, and how do you choose? You know, and you know, on one hand you see kids that have had hardships, and on the other hand you see kids that are geniuses, and you're like, how do I choose who's more worthy? So it's an interesting job. Sort of went on a side tangent there, but that's what I'm doing, and I think I'll continue to do that. Still participate at our local Eagles Club, Friday night burger fries. All that money goes to charity, for any of you folks out there that don't know that. So I'm a volunteer cook down there, and then we also have bingo, which also goes to charity, and I've been known to call a little bingo from time to time. So, it's a good way to give back to the community without, definitely not near on the level that EJ is by any means.
Nobody is.
But, calling bingo and cooking hamburgers is my small little way of raising money for the different charities that we support over the course of the year. And I think I'm going to do that. And I know I'm going to get brought along, and EJ tells me sometimes that I'm helping out with certain things that she's signed me up for. And
tells me.
Yeah, so
Love it.
I think we'll be in, and that's what I'll be doing. So
Nice.
yeah.
So are you ready for your last question?
I am.
Last question is, who's somebody who's a part of your life, who you admire, not your parents or your significant other? What do you admire about them, and what's one or two questions you would ask them?
I definitely admire my father. Pretty interesting guy. He's just turned 75. First guy on his side of the family to go to college and complete college. He worked his way through college. Went to Vietnam after college. Served a year in Vietnam. Went to Ranger School and airborne training before he went. Came back and lived a good life. Got a career. He openly admits he's very fortunate to not have a lot of some of the setbacks that veterans have when they come back. He's been very successful in what he's done in the industry that he's been in. He's been in corporate meat sales most of his life. Right after he came back from Vietnam, he was a district manager in Detroit, and he was actually driving the Wienermobile sometimes. So
Really?
pretty cool. So the Wienermobile used to be in our driveway on the weekends. I'm getting way off target here.
This is awesome.
Why I admire my father. It's definitely not for driving the Wienermobile, although that's pretty high up there. So, back then, the Wienermobile system now is like an internship. So it travels the country, but they used to be regional to Oscar Mayer, Detroit would have a Wienermobile. And so they used to not like to leave it, at least this is how I recall him telling the story, used to not like to leave it alone in the office parking lot on the weekends. So they'd have to just people would mess with the Wienermobiles. I mean, hard to believe that somebody would do that, right? But, so it would be parked in our driveway every third or fourth weekend, and me and my brother were the neighborhood celebrities with the Wienermobile in the driveway at the house. So I don't remember ever riding in it. I think he just brought it home and parked it, but it happened. It used to be at the house, so that was pretty cool. But no, he's getting back on my dad. He's had a really good life, I think. And then he's in retirement. He stayed super active. He's incredibly involved with the VFW and the American Legion. He's always volunteering to help out with charitable events that they put on. He was the president of the Delmarva, which is Delaware, Virginia, Maryland. He lives in Maryland. Irish Society, which is mostly a bunch of old ladies. But my dad and his wife are avid gardeners. So he spends a lot of time gardening, growing food, as well as growing beautiful flowers. So that's pretty interesting, but I got to be honest with you, I can't think of anything I would ask him, because I feel like I've really never been afraid to ask him anything. Yeah. We've had a lot of great conversations, just me and him, mostly in fishing boats.
Nice.
So I don't know if that's a good answer or not, because I didn't completely answer your question.
Well, who's somebody who's not your parents or EJ, who you admire?
My good friend Sky Jones.
Nice.
Sky Jones is this is how he would want me to say this. He's a fly fisherman that just happens to be an attorney.
Okay.
He's here in Bozeman, and he spends most of his summer actually being a fly guide, and then he goes back to being an attorney in the fall and winter. He's getting married next weekend, so that's pretty exciting stuff. He was the vice president when I was the president at the Eagles, and then he went on to become the president after I was done, and he's done a lot of really good charitable work. He's incredibly involved in Warriors in Quiet Waters, and he's raised a lot of charitable money for them over the years. As your president at the Eagles, you have to pick a project to raise money for. He chose Warriors in Quiet Waters. I worked with Reach. And he's an all-around good guy, always good for a laugh, but can be dead serious and incredibly professional as needed. And consider him a really good friend. And I'm kind of in the same boat of what would I ask him if I needed to ask him something. And I'm almost in the same situation that I've sat with him so much in a boat before that I probably never asked him anything I haven't ever wanted to ask him. So I hope I'm not ruining your show right now.
No, not at all.
So I'm sure if you interview him, though, I'll learn a lot more about him. Maybe he was a child actor or something.
Yeah, okay. So you want to know if he was a child actor?
Yeah.
Okay, that's one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great nomination. Well, Pat, I really want to thank you. I want to thank you for believing in this project, for being open to it, for having me here at your grain elevator, which is fantastic, and all the collections and the trucks and things you have out here. I hope to get to share them with everybody.
Do that.
And thank you for being that person who brings love and energy to everything and everyone who you care about in your life.
Thank you.
Cheers, man.
Yeah, cheers.
Yeah. Thanks for checking out episode number 13 of You Are Admirable with the very admirable Pat Iwanski. Thanks again to Pat for hosting me and this project, and thanks to Kyle Sorensen, as usual, for the music. I left the mics on after stopping the video, so stay tuned for the story about how Pat proposed to EJ, and there are pictures of the grain elevator for those who are watching the video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and please know you are admirable. We'll see you next time. Did you see yourself getting married? I mean, was that something that...
It was always an idea, but it was never a priority. And it really didn't become a priority until I realized that I wanted to be with EJ, and my parents are substantially older. And I wanted to get married like 2 years ago, to be honest with you.
Oh.
And EJ told me basically when we'd be married. And I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I mean, last summer was Mari's summer. And
that's right.
we were not going to get married last summer because we weren't going to put the burden on her family to have to travel twice for a wedding. And then the summer before that, she had two really good friends that were getting married, and she was like, it's their summer, we're not going to do it. And then, we had gotten pretty serious about it. We had figured out the ring. The ring was actually my mother's, the stone was, and then we had it completely custom made at Alara. And then we took all the platinum from the band of that, my mother's ring, and it is now in this ring. And so EJ knew the ring was being made, but then she had no idea when and where I was going to propose. And then I proposed the day after Mari's wedding at summer camp, which is like the most important place on the face of the earth to EJ. So yeah.
Mari too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Mari still to this day is like, you son of a bitch. I had to get out of bed at 7:30 in the morning on the morning after my own wedding to see you propose to EJ. And so all of her friends got to be there, and most of her family was there. So it ended up being pretty neat. And basically, I told EJ I was going fishing in the morning, and then I went back to the cabin and told her I'd caught a big fish and wanted her to come take my picture. And then I had put the ring on the stringer in the water, and there was no fish. So that's my move.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was on a knee. It was all, it was all like, it was all set up. So yeah, she was super hungover because it was Mari's wedding. And so yeah, she was like in a pair of shorts and a hooded sweatshirt. So completely, the photos were amazing of it, But it was pretty cool. So her sister was right there next to her when it happened because she was like, "Hey, come with me. You want to see this fish Pat caught?" And so, it all worked out though. So yeah.
That is funny, gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to ask. Damn it! Forgot to ask how excited you were to be Mari's cousin.
Oh man. Do like a phone interview or something. Pretty excited to be Mari's cousin. She's pretty spectacular. She's good lady. So
she asked that. She was like, "Oh no." First, where the passion comes from, and then it was, how excited is he to be, my cousin.
you can just in your intro, you can maybe let Mari know how.
Well, I'm still recording, so maybe I'll use that right there.
Mari, super excited to be your cousin.
Is there any question that I haven't asked you that you think I should ask you?
I don't know. You haven't asked me any political questions, but that's probably good.
And we're done.
All right, man. I like it.